Well, hello. It is probably about a week after I should have made this video, but I have an excuse. I changed the tires on the truck, and they were pretty much melted or rusted to the rim, and so it was a heck of a time trying to get them off of there. One, thankfully I had my brother to help me, and hit it with a BFH. The other one, not so much. The other one, well, I kind of had to get a carbide burr after it, and eat up the little wires in the bead. So it took me a while to do that. But anyway, we're here now, so let's go through it. So I did two major things to the truck. I did the tires, which was the bigger pain in the you-know-what. And I also, rebuilt the transmission, aka I just put new seals, gaskets, and a couple of bearings in it. That's all it really needed. And then I freshened up the oil inside. I guess let's just jump into it. So the first thing that I did was actually the transmission. Word of advice. It's not that hard, but don't think you're just going to do the seals and get away with it, because you're just going to have to do everything anyway. I thought I was going to breeze through it, and I did it wrong, in the wrong order, first of all. And second, when I took the rear pieces out to do the seal on the rear part, all of the roller bearings and the main shaft fell out into the case. So just assume you're going to have to rebuild the whole thing and just plan for the time, alright? So the first thing that I did, which was the wrong thing to do, by the way, was I changed the seal on the front shaft and the bearing on the front shaft. Don't do that. Take the back out first. But anyway, here I am taking out the front. Here is the side cover off. You can see these little forks will go into these areas here, and that's what allows it to shift gears. We have our synchros and everything there as well, as you can see. Now we have the side cover off here. There's this idler, I guess it is, and it has a spacer on it. There's a little clip on it that you have to pop off so that you can move the idler gear forward, I guess you would say, towards the front of the truck. And then you can kind of maneuver the rear assembly out. Now, when I did this, all the roller bearings and the main, the input shaft, fell out. And of course, I am a barbarian, and so I just took a hammer and screwdriver and hit it so that the seal came out the end. And then I just lightly, ghetto tapped it with a hammer or a sledgehammer or a mallet until the new seal was in and flush. Works good enough for me. All the roller bearings fell off of the main shaft, and I saw a YouTube video of a dude that was like, hey, wheel bearing grease will hold these in so you can get the actual shaft together. And that seemed like a lot easier idea, so here I am putting all those in with grease. And so now what I did was I put the rear assembly back in, which requires you to move the little idler gear again. And then once that was in,
I forgot the gasket.
I didn't bolt it down. I did forget the gasket like an idiot. and so I had to take it off again and put the gasket on. At that point, I had taken off the bearing from the main input shaft on the front of the transmission. That made it a lot easier. Now, you do have to put this in from the inside of the case, like you have to go through the side cover, and then just kind of loosely hold it there. And so I did that, and then bolted down the rear very loosely, like they weren't even snug. They were just kind of started. Then I was able to slide the new front bearing on. And now I just have to bolt everything back together. Well, that's done. As you can see, it was more me just flailing about and doing things wrong and then having to take them apart and put them back together right. It was not hard. It wasn't like something you can mix up very quickly or easily. It's just take your time and pay attention to what you're doing, because I clearly did not. So let's move on to the tires. So we're going to start with breaking the bead. This was our last stubborn one. So ideally you won't be doing this anyway. You won't have to have a BFH or a friend to help you. You'll just push down here, and then we'll slide this little shoe into the bead of the tire, push down, and it'll break the bead fairly easily. Do that on both sides, and then we pop the tire on to the top of it. There's a tire iron that comes with this thing, and so you just want to lube up the end of that. I use the sharp spiky point. Get your tire on there. It's a good idea to lube the tire as well, so it will slide a little easier. And then you just like quickly do this, and you will, if you're doing a decent tire and not one that's rusted to the rim, it'll actually go quite easily. This one was falling apart, so it was difficult. But now the mistake that most people are probably going to make is you're going to see how this is tilted this way. You don't want to go towards the side that is higher up, because you won't be able to get your tool in there. What you want to do is you want to put the tool in the part that is lower, and then slip it around the bead of the tire, then bring the tire up, and it's way easier. And then you see we don't even have to spin around the whole way. It just kind of pops off after you've done half of it. So these are 31s, and the beads are very thick. Hopefully you're not going to be doing this on 31s, but if you do, I mean, great. A word of advice, you're going to be tempted to be like, okay, I want the majority of like the bead to be on the highest elevation possible on the rim, because that would be the smallest circumference that I would be able to do. Like, if I push the tire down, obviously it's going to want to, like, the distance is going to be greater and it's going to want to stretch more. Wrong. You actually have a little channel, as you can see here, in the tire, or the wheel. And so you want the tire to actually, you want the bead to go down into that channel, because that allows you to actually, it allows the tire to go further forward, which is what you want. And if you try to have the bead like up against the rim, you're never going to stretch that thing. This tire sat, like the first one sat in my yard for 2 months because I was too stupid to figure out that there's a channel in there and you want to push it down in there and then it can move like towards the center of the wheel. Then you can get your tire there. I'll spare you from most of me flailing about trying to get the tire on there because I didn't have the tire low enough into that channel. And we'll just skip to the end where I actually got the tire most of the way on. Let's get the tire the rest of the way on the wheel or the rim. And then we can seat the bead. I hate this part. Pop! And here we are installing the wheel and the tire back onto the truck. Put our hubcap from the Nova on this and give it a little pop so it holds it in place. And man, doesn't that look pretty. So we're done with those two things. That's all for today. I have other stuff to do, including I'm going to go under the truck and, what do you call it? I'm going to brush the frame and stuff like that and clean it up with soap and paint it. I still have the entire steering linkage kit, including the tie rods, the sleeves, obviously, the assemblies. I have a new idler arm, a new pitman arm. Looking at these 31s, I'm gonna need to buy a power brake booster because I don't trust manual brakes on this size of tire with this big of a truck. So I need to order that. But I have all the steering stuff already, and so that'll probably be the next video, the steering and the painting. And maybe I'll pop the transmission in, who knows. I have a nice new mount for it, and it can just go back in the truck. I have the heater core. I don't know if I want to do that. I might just leave that for the next owner to do. Interior, I'm probably going to leave alone. I might tear out the old plastic sheet on the floor and put carpet on it. After that, we need to rebuild the engine and pop it back in there and break it in, and then hopefully it'll be ready to drive. So stick around for that, I guess. Who knows when that's going to happen. You know the drill, though. We're done here, so be good while I'm gone, and we'll see you next time. Have a good week.